Hi there, Vince here from mymatevince.com, and the Switch Killer is back in action. It's been a few months and I always leave it just long enough just to forget what I started to learn. So I bought this off eBay for £60. Doesn't look like a business seller, but it said came in a lot, and oh, that's missing. Came in a lot and doesn't charge, doesn't display anything on the screen. So who knows how many hands this has been through? Haven't got a clue. I could be lucky, but then again, I could be very, very, very unlucky because it is eBay. Right, first of all, let's plug it in and see what's happening here. So £60 is I suppose it's the sort of going rate for it. By no means is it a bargain, but at the same time, it's not too bad. Sometimes they do go for more than that on eBay. Okay, well, it is drawing something. Let's just turn it on. See if it does anything. Yeah, well, it's definitely not turning on and it's not jumping up. But at the same time, it is taking a bit of trickle charge, isn't it? Right, well, look, let's get straight into it and see if see what happens on the inside. Maybe something will become nice and clear when we open it up. Serial numbers missing. Nothing in there. Looks a little bit dirty on the inside there. I hope this isn't water damaged. So while we're opening up this little switch of possible horrors, let's give a shout out to that very generous group also known as the My Mate Vince Massive. Now the MMV Massive this month consists of Saturnine Cinema, Operational 117, KitDigital.com, Kip Hakes, Max Rockatansky, Having Fun Repairs, Ellensburg Amplifier Repair and Service, and Will Michaelis. So, big round of applause to all them and also all the other Patreons as well. Now, let's see what lurks inside this switch. But the great news is that, look at that there. The water damage indicator is not... Oh, hold on. Ah, look here. So, can you see what's wrong with this? Let me start zooming in slowly and shout out when you can see it, because obviously I won't be able to hear you. Anybody see it yet? Can you see any bodge work that's been done? And when I say bodge work, it has obviously been done by, well, somebody with enamelled wire. Have you seen it? Yeah, down here. Can you see this Joy-Con attachment here? This wire here. Right, so let's pop this out. Oh yeah, that's well and truly burnt up. Just have a quick look around. Is anything else looking iffy? No. Take this out. Right, here we go. Oh, so what have they done here? Oh, this is the backlight. This is the backlight, isn't it? Yes, this is the backlight. Right, okay. So we've got 3 traces there, and they've run this round. Where would they have run this to then? Would it be maybe the contact? Maybe they knew where it feeds from then, on here, on the board. Where does that one go to? Let's zoom right in. That's us going through. Hold on. Oh, okay, yeah, that's not going anywhere. But it was going somewhere. A bit confused. 1 second a minute. Where is that going to? Was it just jumping up to one of the points up here? Dearie me. Well, look, I'm not going to say anything because I've done enough bodgy things in the past. But then again, I wouldn't have sold it on. Yeah, I thought that was the Joy-Con. It's not. It's the backlight. Right, so let's tell you what. Let's zoom right in just to make sure there's no shorts on here. If I'm honest with you, I can't quite work out what's happening there. I might have to get my microscope out and have a look. I'm wondering if this is putting a short on it, which is stopping it from turning on. Yeah, well, it was bent over this way here, and I've sort of put it straight up. So I think it is just on that contact there now. So I think I'm going to plug it in again, see if it's doing anything different, or maybe I'll tell you what I should do. Oh, there we go. It's off now. Anyway, let's zoom out and let's try a different battery in it. Or before we try a battery, we should see what this battery is reading. The good thing about switches is they never disappoint. As far as the interest goes for a video. They always disappoint as far as fixing goes. Right, 2.5 volts, that's way too low. That's massively low. So let's pop the battery out. And let's get another battery, pop it in, and see whether it at least, you know, tries to turn on. Alright, so this battery's measuring 4.1 volts. Excuse the look of it, it was for a switch mod thing. Right, let's see now what happens when we... obviously the backlight's not going to work, so the screen's not going to come on. But just to see if we can hear anything, hear any sounds, and also let's see if it's doing anything different as far as this is concerned. $41, that's better. That's good. Let's see if that goes to 0 and then comes on after that. There you go, 0. Come on now. Go to 1 something. Fantastic. That should be... It's on. It's on. Listen. It's on. Brilliant. So, we should have a docked switch, which for £60 would be amazing. Okay, so you can see the switch is in there with the battery hanging out. Now, the left Joy-Con did sync up, the right one didn't. So 100% there's a problem with the right Joy-Con rail as well, which corresponds to the damage by the backlight. So I think this has had some sort of water damage on that side of it there. And to me, it looks like it was a child's Nintendo Switch because of the games on there. But yeah, they are both working, so if I can get it working, I've still got to sort out that Joy-Con rail anyway. Now let's have a look at a game card. Is it going to recognise a game? Yes, fantastic, it does. Right, well, already I'm happy. It's got a parental control on. I used to know how to take that off. I don't know if that's still relevant or not. I won't be showing you that on this video for obvious reasons. But yeah, so far so good. So I think what we need to do is I think we need to strip this switch down and see what's happening with that. It's going to need a new screen, isn't it? Because that ribbon cable's shot. And we're going to have to look if there's any way that we can possibly replace that connector. The problem is that's going to need heat from the other side, and I can't remember what components are down in that side. Obviously, if there's chips and stuff on the other side of it, then it might not be a good idea to put a whole load of heat expecting it to travel all the way through the board. But either way, even if I mess that connector up completely, it's already broken, we can still have a docked switch. So the kind of risk at this moment in time isn't too great. So let's get it completely stripped down and let's see if we can do anything to this one here. So I'm going to undo all the screws now to take this out, and obviously take out all the ribbon cables as well. Yeah, you can see water damage on that. Yep, so if you look at this one here, can you see that this one looks nice and clean? This is also this is the other Joy-Con rail. So these are the rails here, and they just travel down this ribbon cable to here, and you can see they've got quite a few contacts on them. And they all look clean. But look at this one here. So 100% this has had some sort of, I presume it's water damage in this corner. So we might also find that this rail here is damaged, but that's not a problem. What would be more awkward is if this here is damaged in here. Just going to wipe away the thermal paste so I don't get it all over myself. Yeah, I can see corrosion up here, and also up here as well, and there. Just going to have a quick look at the USB port in here. Yeah, luckily the pins look nice and straight in there. That side look okay, and that side look okay. Right, plastic's a bit broken there, so let's have a look how bad it is. So it doesn't look bad. I think it must have been in a bag over this side, and then a bit of water leaked and just caught this side here. Then when they turned it on, it probably completely blew, because we've got high voltage, well not high, but higher voltage coming down for the backlight, haven't we? So I can't remember what it was on the switch light. Was it 20 something volts? I can't remember, I did a video on it, but it's a lot higher than the rest of the board. So I suppose if water got there, it would blow out very easily. Yeah, so 100% it's going to need a new screen, because that's going to be too hard to... These ones here have gone. Well, saying that, do you know what would be quite nice? If we were to cut this here, and then, because I've got water damaged screens, and if we were to take this one off, because maybe the screen itself isn't water damaged, it might be okay. if we were to, you know, piece one together, joint one together, that might make for a more interesting video. Right, let's see what's happening on this side here. Good news is there's no components here that I'm really worried about, so I could heat it up from this side, take that off, and yeah, might be lucky. Well, what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to just get some IPA. I'm going to try to clean up this one here because it does look corroded just at the corner. Now, just before I clean this, I just want to show you the traces from it. So if you have a look at this one here, we can already see that this one is loose. Yeah, so that's not connected. That should be connected to those wires up there. It's another sort of wire with a bit of corrosion on it there. But that's okay. That's okay. I don't know. No. Not sure about that one. Might be okay. And then if we have a look at the bottom ones, you can see that these two go over to here. But then a couple of them there look to be corroded. Well, I'm going to clean it first anyway. So I'm just using some isopropyl alcohol, 99.9%. I'm going to leave that for the time being. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this off here because I'm going to be applying heat to this area. So I'm just going to put that to one side. And I'm going to get some heat underneath this here. And then try to take this off, and then we can have a look at the pads underneath because maybe all the pads are damaged. Okay, so I've just clipped it onto here and I'm going to use the heat gun underneath pointing up here. So I'm just going to put a bit of flux around this connector. Now this connector is damaged anyway, so I don't care about this one. But at this moment in time I'm going to try to leave the Joy-Con on because this connector will only have 4 contacts. The Joy-Con rail is going to have about 10, I think it is. So it's going to be a lot harder than this one here. And I would already find this very hard to do anyway. So I'm just going to heat it up from the other side of the board. My temperature is 420 degrees Celsius and I've got 6 out of 8 airflow. And I'm just angling it here. Just moving around a little bit just at the moment, just to try and get a bit of heat in the board. Right, so the flux is starting to bubble. See, although I don't want this connector, if I put the heat from the top, I'm just going to melt this one next to it. It's coming. There we go. I'm just going to let that cool down for a bit and then we can have a close look at it. So in that heating process, the little enamelled wire that was run has now come off. And I've had a look at the back here, but luckily nothing else has come off. So I think that went okay. Right, let's zoom right in on this. This is connection here and this is the connecting. Can you see that pin just here, the second one along? Looks pretty burnt, so maybe that was causing the issue. And also it's not just there, but it's on the inside as well. You can see it looks all burnt up in there. Right, so what I'm going to do is put a tiny bit of flux on here and let's see if we can just clean this up a bit. Just going to add some leaded and then just wick it all off. So I'm presuming that's the sort of ground over here because the soldering iron's sticking a little bit there. Now, when you're wicking off, it's best to go along the pads rather than left to right. So now what I need to do is I need to take the connector off another board and try and get it on here. So to begin with, I want to put a nice big pillow of solder onto these bits. So I'm going to just put a bit of flux on. And I'm going to try to get a blob of solder on my iron and just rub it around without trying to put the iron onto it. Just kind of rub it around on top and hopefully that will leave a sort of a pillow, a bubble of solder on it. Now, see, that one's really messing me up there, isn't it? I wonder would that do? Well, we've definitely got solder on there, so I think we'll give it a go, and if it's wrong, it's wrong. So what I'm going to be using is this Rage Quit Nintendo Switch that I had from ages ago. So you can see this has got a very nice bend on it here. So I'm going to be taking off that one from here because they do actually look to be in good condition. This broke because it was bent rather than any water damage or anything like that. So again, heating it up from the other side. Should I use flux? I suppose I have to use flux. The annoying thing is the flux is going to get caught on the inside, but maybe I can just give it a really good clean. Oh, also, I forgot. There's two little pads down here. I don't know if there should be solder on them or not. Let's have a look at the old one that came off. Yeah, I think the two anchor points. So I'm going to put some solder on the anchor points as well. Okay, so I've got some nice big blobs on there, so hopefully that might pull it in. Well, let's take off the other one. I'm going to try and grab it on the side so I don't damage where the cable goes in. There we go. I'm going to let that cool down for a bit. So this is now the faulty backlight board, the original faulty board that we're making a video on, and the good backlight connector. So now I need to heat it up from underneath and try to get the good connector onto the faulty board that we're working on, and fingers crossed it will all pull into place. So I'm just heating up a big area to begin with, and then I can start pulling it in after that. Right, so the flux is starting to bubble. Okay, it moved a little bit there, didn't it? Is it moving now? I wonder if it's in the right spot. Oh, I think it is. I'm going to leave it at that. Let it cool, and then we'll test it. I think when I tapped it there, I think it kind of moved back into place. Right, well I think it's stuck, so let's get the multimeter. And let's see first of all if we have the this pin here to ground. We do. Right, now let's try to go onto the other pin. Let's take it out of here. Right, let's go to the other pin now, which was the third one along here. Yes, it does. Excellent. Right, well, that might be okay. Those two pins are okay, so yeah, that might be good. Right, I'm just going to... What am I going to do now? I suppose before cleaning that up, maybe we should try to sort out this Joy-Con connector. And then I can clean it at the end. Ah, the lid's just come off. Let me zoom right in. That could have been flux in there, you see. I don't think I'll be able to fix that. Nah, that's gone. Okay, that one's gone, so that's going to have to come off, unfortunately. Okay, well, yeah. It would have been nice if I could have done them both at the same time, but I thought I might be able to get away with that one. So that was probably my own fault there. I should have cleaned it, because I suppose the burnt flux, the flux has gone hot and it's stuck into that position, and when I pulled it up it just snapped. Right, let's take it off. So what I have to do now is the same process as what you just seen. It's just that this one's going to be harder because there's more pins. I haven't counted. I think there's about 10 pins on these Joy-Con connectors. So I have to heat it from underneath. I have to take it off. This one's a lot harder to take off because I think a lot of the heat is escaping around the side because it's at the very, very, very edge of the board. And in trying to take this one off, because this is unleaded solder, and the one that I've just put on for the backlight is leaded solder melts a lot at a lower temperature, so it's melting quicker than the unleaded solder. And of course, it's up in the air, so you can't rest your elbows on the table. So any little movement you do is kind of like just magnified. So a tiny little movement just means the tweezers seem to be moving lots, because it's very hard to have control moving 1 millimeter when you're just flapping your arms around in the air. So in doing this now, I end up kind of wobbling the good connector, and it's all a bit of a nightmare. If I'm honest with you, it wasn't easy whatsoever. But then eventually, when I do take it off, I then just got to clean up the pads again, and I realised that one of the pads are missing. So really, this did need to come off, because underneath the pads, they were burnt anyway. I can see that there's layers of corrosion there, but one of the pads are completely missing, and it was the loose one that you've seen in the top middle at the beginning of the video. So what I'm having to do is just run a tiny little bit of enamelled wire down, and then I need to put a little bit of solder mask on it to keep it in place, and then I'm going to solder the new connector onto the existing pads and the enamelled wire. So the enamelled wire is acting like a pad. As you can imagine, this whole process does take a long time. A huge amount of hours was sunk into this switch. It would take me too long to edit up a 5-hour video, and who on earth would watch a 5-hour video? Well, I know some people would, but obviously it's YouTube. The majority of people like videos that are 10 minutes. But yeah, I'm doing a voiceover on this bit to try and quicken up the video, but this process you're seeing now was a very, very long time. So once all that is done, I then need to tin up the pads, and then I need to put the connector back on, which is a lot easier said than done, but I do get there eventually, and that's where we will pick up the video now. Right, you know what, looking at that there, I'm really, really, really happy with it. So the reason it took so long cleaning it is because these were like solid because of the flux and stuff. But look at that. Look at the pins. They all seem to be lining up. When you look at the traces coming down here. That's brilliant. Right, what I've done is I've put it into a known good screen just to see what's happening with it. I know the other screen still needs work. The problem is the backlight barely went in, and the Joy-Con connector barely went in. I don't know if they're full of flux or whether they've got a bit burnt in the process, but I don't think they've made a good connection. But let's plug it in and see if it does anything. Oh my god, look at that. Fantastic. Okay, the battery's flat, but that's fine. That's amazing. I would be yelling around and jumping, but it's 2:15 in the morning and everybody's in bed. So I'm just going to leave that charge up for a bit, and then once it comes to life, we can see if the Joy-Con rail works. If it does, then I might well try to fix up the other screen and see if we can, you know, get the original switch that I got from eBay working as it is, without maybe swapping any parts at all, which would be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, so while this is charging up here, I think what I'm going to now do is see if we can get the other screen working. So it might be water damage, but we don't actually know that yet. So I'm going to cut this one down low, because you can see here this is just completely smashed, and see if I can use this ribbon cable on the other one. So you can see what's happened here. I've cut off the ribbon cable from a damaged screen, a smashed up screen, but the ribbon cable is going to be good. And I've cut off the bad section of the ribbon cable off the possibly good screen that came on this switch. We don't know at the moment if this screen is okay or not. So what I'm having to do is, because there's a ribbon cable, I'm having to scrape it back to get to the copper on the inside. It's hard to do. I'm not sure if I scratched the wrong side. I sort of scratched the side which was easiest for me to scratch, but because of the amount of scraping, I'm thinking it might have been easier for me to scratch the other side. But regardless, I eventually got there to copper. Now, if this was out in a nice open place with plenty of spare, it would be a lot easier. But I'm trying to work in a little crevice with only a few millimeters of ribbon cable sticking out. So it is a lot harder than what it looks like on the big screen that you're watching here. So I'm trying to get bits of solder onto the ribbon cable, and then I've got to run little bits of enameled wire in between to bridge the gap. See, the problem is the ribbon cable still needs to remain flexible. I can't glue it down because it needs to be flexible. So what I'm doing at the very end, once I'm happy that the joins look okay at best, is putting some UV glue on it and then shining the UV light, trying to build up a kind of layer around it that will give it some protection but will still allow the sides, either side of the glue, to flex, because that part of the ribbon cable's okay. So let's see if this complete mess has actually worked or not. Unbelievable. I'm having to whisper because it's now 3:45 in the morning, but look at that, and that is with the dodgy backlight with my little creation here. So I put a load of UV glue on it, and the bit that's folded over is the flex, and the bit with the UV glue is down there. Amazing. Right, so now what I have to work on is this Joy-Con rail here. Now obviously I can't use the original one because we've got corrosion on here, so I'm just going to use another one. Okay, bear with me, we're nearly there. So I had problems with the Joy-Con connector, so I had to run little enameled wire to nearby points to enable it to make the connection. I then had to cover that in the solder mask again and put the UV light on it to make that go hard. I then put a nice healthy dollop of thermal paste on, and now just before I show you the end results, you can see that it is actually fast charging, so that's good. And also the micro SD card slot is working as well. So now let me show you the very final finished result. So it's been about a week later now, and this switch is perfect. You can see the Joy-Cons are attached down here, and also when I go into here, they're charging fine. So you can see that they're both full when you plug it in. They charge, and when they're low, they charge from the switch. So that all appears to be fine. I've downloaded to the latest firmware and also got rid of the parental controls. That has now changed from how it was before. You have to actually do it via Nintendo now, or you can hack your Switch, which most people are not going to want to do. But doing it via Nintendo was really, really easy. I've actually made a separate video on that. Now, because this Switch is going to have a new home, I didn't want to rely on that dodgy backlight connector that I did. So you've seen that I got the backlight working, but how long that's going to work for, I don't know. That could burn out very quickly. So remember, I've done various different videos on switches, so I do have different screens and different parts and stuff. So I've put a proper screen in this with an intact cable there. You've seen that it was working, so as far as I'm concerned, it's a fix, but I think a long-term fix would need a proper ribbon cable on that screen. So I've actually swapped this screen out for a proper one. But the motherboard's the same. You can see all the games are the same up here. Yeah, so I was happy with it. It's Nintendo Switch always throws up interesting fixes as far as I'm concerned. So let me end on just a tiny little bit of gameplay, but it's working perfectly. Motion controls and all that stuff's working fine as well. Right, I'll just get into first place and then we'll end the video. No, I don't think I'm going to get into first place. Terrible fourth place. Unbelievable. I'll blame it on my dodgy soldering skills. So there we have it. Okay, I'm not very good at Mario Kart, but yet we got the Switch working again. So that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.